Pipe Network presents.
On this episode of Season 4, Let's Talk.
I think it started in high school, right? Because studying in the Philippine Science High School system, you're you are actually required to take a science and technology course in
In
college.
college, yeah. It's part of the
Yeah,
contract because the high school education is free.
yeah. It was when we were in high school. That was before the STEM thing, right? But
Yeah.
but it's basically that. It's
Yes.
basically that. It's a school inclined toward science and technology.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Rajiv Show, and I'm your host Rajiv Doreswamy. And this show aims to help reach out to those who are currently struggling in life and to remind you that life is indeed beautiful when you're inspired to make it your own. Before we get into this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to whichever platform you are using. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at The Rajiv Show. Hey folks, welcome to The Rajiv Show. And my guest today, surprisingly, is one of my favorite couples from the Pipe Network. I love these guys because I recently had a conversation with them over a topic known as the White Tiger. If you haven't checked it out, of course, they're going to plug that as well with their podcast. Let me introduce Mike and Ham from Please Pause. Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Hey Raj.
Hello.
How are things? How are things at the moment? It felt like it was
Yeah.
years.
Everything's good. I think Peace Pause is still ongoing. So
Hopefully still the case when this
when this
recording is
episode is
released.
released, but
Oh,
we'll
I
see.
believe you guys with the thing. I believe you guys would do more. I mean, you guys have amazing content, which is thing. The fact that the reason why I wanted to have a conversation with you guys is one is your chemistry. When I spoke to you guys are amazing. Uh, some of you guys are, you know who you are unexpected. So we might see a thing or two of that here in this episode. So yes,
Hmm. Hmm.
there we are. So before we get into our meat and bones, our conversation here, could you provide a little bit of background to my listeners about who you are?
Yeah. Well, we're Mike and Ham. We're a married couple. We live in the Philippines, and we do this podcast on TV and film. Basically, it's called Please Pause, and we talk about everything. Teleseries to superheroes,
Blockbusters.
classics, basically whatever. And that's our podcasting personality. But who we are, we're just
We're not really Mike and Ham. Those aren't our real names.
we're just people watching TV.
And we normally just really stay at home watching TV. So I know we know a lot of people have had a change in lifestyle, with the pandemic, but
Yeah.
For the two of us it wasn't really that much of a step change
Hmm.
because we really just normally stay at home. So
Yeah, we're,
um
we're, we're not really into going out and stuff. So, yeah.
Interesting. That's my first interesting bell of the ring. Uh, TV. How about personal life? I mean, you guys work. Uh, what is this thing? What's the
Yeah,
scenario?
sure.
we can start with our real names. So you're Miguel Carlo and
No one's
I'm
interested in
Hyacinth
that.
May.
No one's
And
interested in that.
para
But
lang dire-diretso na.
uh, let me just introduce my co-host sa podcast namin, no? Kasi I know she will not she will not introduce herself this way. So my co-host is my wife, Ham. Classmate ko siya nung high school, Philippine Science High School in Diliman, and then we went to UP together. She studied chemical engineering. She graduated top of her class 2010, summa cum laude honors.
Wow.
And then after that, she was top 5. I like to say, I might be wrong.
Why are you
Top
going
5
to that level of detail?
in the chemical engineering board exams that
Wow.
year 2010.
Chemical
So,
engineering.
alam ko hindi niya
Wow.
sasabihin yun sa sarili niya eh. So, I'll just do it for her.
What about the
You
other
want me to
way?
return the favor?
No, I'm not
Okay, so
expecting anything
I'll
in
do the
return,
same.
okay?
So we were classmates in high school, and when we went to college, he took what was your course again? Electronics and communications engineering. He graduated top of his class, and not only that, so of course summa cum laude, but he was the valedictorian of our entire engineering class.
Oh, engineering.
No one's interested in that.
Yeah, so
By the way,
Hmm.
the only reason that I was valedictorian, kasi mas madali ng konti yung course ko kaysa sa course niya, kaya second lang siya.
Okay. This is interesting. Chemical engineering, electronics. This takes me back to India, where mostly these are the things that I see in colleges. After all that whole thing, all is well became popular, and every child is special.
Oh! All is
Right.
well, yeah.
So yeah.
yeah, but let me
hmm.
finish para apples to apples. So after we graduated in college, so he was top 3 in the electronics and communications engineering board exam in 2010.
Again, no one's interested in
Ba't mo
that.
sinabi?
Very detailed.
Di sa kailangan ko rin sabihin for
Personal
you.
daw eh. Raj said personal introduction.
Oh man, I'm already loving
Yeah,
this
so,
conversation.
So after 2010, we pursued master's education, and we stayed in the university for a while to teach. But several years later, we left the university, and then we worked in separate private companies.
Yeah, she taught in the university for 5 years, right?
Almost 5 years.
Yeah, I was there for 7 years. So that was in a previous life.
So our podcast has nothing to do with that part of
Yeah.
our life.
It's kind of different turn.
Yeah.
It's like a turn. It's like a sharp turn. If this is the movie, there's a sudden sharp turn in the corner of the road. This is pretty interesting.
Well, Raj, we can talk about electromagnetic propagation and stuff and chemical process engineering, but
We don't
no
want
one's
to.
interested in that again.
And we don't want to. I don't want to talk about work in particular. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Don't worry.
This is our common ground, and that's what we want to talk about and made a podcast on.
Raj, can I
Yes,
ask you
sir.
a question?
Yes,
this
sir.
is not your podcast.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. I just wanted to ask because we saw your calendar earlier and it's full of interviews and stuff and whatever. What are you doing full time? What's your full time job? I'm just wondering.
As of
It
the
seems like-
moment, that's actually a good question that nobody has asked me. For those who are tuning in, there's a list I have. It's not a kill list. It's a list of the people that I've interviewed.
It's a hit list.
It's a list of conversations that I've met over the amazing pandemic period. It kind of sounds weird, too contradicting. Saying during the pandemic, of course, to answer your question, I really wanted to be creative, and the first 2 weeks of the pandemic, I finished. I think I finished college already. And it's funny I said I think I finished because I don't even remember finishing it.
Yeah, we saw your post.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Oh, cheers. That was like a distant memory ago. But coming back, we diverged. Coming back into the conversation is that like I said, I wanted to be creative, and when I
Mm.
started the whole podcast journey, I just wanted to keep that flow. Keep the flow of the creative juice, and at that moment when I already graduated, I made a vow to myself, which we will talk in a few, which we'll uncover later, is that I wanted to step out of what I know was comfort zone for me. So podcasting became a thing for me. I started doing it. I actually genuinely enjoy it. And then through the period, of course, of the pandemic, I met a lot of phenomenal legends, especially you guys, where I just got to know you guys on a human level, which is one of the uh, interesting challenge for me because I never really had the opportunity to have a conversation with people, and you know, and a good conversation is for me personally, is a good conversation is uh, when people vibe, and in music, that's a kind of term, when people are grooving, there's a vibe, and that's what makes music good, and that's what makes music.
Yeah,
So yeah, I hope I answered the question.
we're just amazed. We're just amazed that because you seem very passionate at what you're doing for podcasting. I mean, recording in advance, scheduling in advance. We
Keeping an
can
organized file.
we can do that on our show.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the only one doing everything, right?
Yeah. And yeah, it's fun. I mean, the whole thing is, I gotta admit, I think I've posted this few days ago, or months, or years ago. Oh, years. I mean, months ago, is that I genuinely love podcasting because it's not just about the conversation that makes me feel complete. It's that it's having a connection with someone. It's connecting through words and through conversations that makes my life worth. That's why I'm a motivation, because that's why I made the whole Let's Talk series. Is uh I wanted a conversation with people, and to find out what is their main motives to build, as Mike mentioned, you perfect people. uh, I just heard that thing in my head. That's why. Yeah. It-
You know that I was kidding, right?
I know, I know, but the thing just suddenly
You know
popped
that
in
I
my
was just
head.
messing around, right?
I know this is impromptu, but suddenly there was this sudden thing in my head that I just remembered. Oh, perfect! And then hearing your voice made me. I had to say it. So yeah, basically, every conversation is one big motivation for me to just keep living life, and that's saying that's my passion. Oh, and I didn't really answer the question. What am I doing? Saying aside from that, I'm also working on some countless projects. um some of it I cannot really divulge because they're all private projects, but I think some of it you already know. So yeah. um that's
Top secret,
yeah, yeah, it's true.
classified.
True, classified. So those are the aside from the projects, I'm also handling my show, and I'm looking to spread the Rajiv show into various mediums, not just podcasting for the motivation, and for the entertainment, and saying I also want to do a kind of Mike and Ham thing, which I don't know if I could do a split personality or something, but yeah. That's
Uh,
Doble cara.
yeah.
that would be interesting in your
Yeah.
words.
It's funny. Once I get into that crazy side, I develop that weird character where I can make like five characters and saying. Hopefully, if the conversation proceeds, and you might see the characters, or probably in the next conversation. Let's see. It's just a weird thing. It's just it freaks people out once I get into that zone. So, to wrap that entire long segment of introductions, uh, I want to take a step back into time. You mentioned high school. Um, I think I'm gonna take a time travel to high school, and I wanted to ask you guys, if we were all high school classmates, who were you guys in high school? I'm sure I could imagine Ham being uh on the books and Mike on
Yeah,
the
you're mostly right about that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to still
I'll
figure
be the
out where
quiet
Mike
one.
is.
Just
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out where
take a
Mike is in
guess.
that high school vibe. I have a feeling that you're a football player or sports athlete kind of person, but a very quiet person in class. I don't know if I'm right or I'm right.
Uh, I'll let her go first. So,
Yeah,
who are
so
you?
I guess the way I'd be your high school classmate is I'm just the one who sits quietly on her spot. I don't know. I don't usually walk around chatting with friends when it's not yet, or when the teacher's not yet around, or teacher.
Oh.
Parang ngayon ko lang ulit nabanggit yung term na teacher.
Yeah.
And I also, I'm just really quiet. I don't speak up during recitations. I mean, I
Oh.
have classmates who are Bibo and all, so I'm not that type.
Ah.
Yeah, and I'm the serious type. And I don't normally like hang out in a with a big group of friends. Just a
Mostly
few
library.
people, like my dorm mates, because we stay in dormitories.
Huh.
And yeah, so your typical boring classmate.
Now I'm
Yeah.
interested in what Mike's story is.
No. Yeah. That's the interesting part of our high school experience. Kasi we lived in the dorms.
Hmm.
So looking back, I call that high school experience Hogwarts kasi doon kami nakatira sa
Mm.
school. But uh, I wasn't a jock, if that's what you mean by a
No, I
football
mean,
player.
I
If
mean a
I was
split
quiet, he's quieter. He was quieter.
a split personality, like a beast in the field and then a quiet guy. And I think I meant it right. I hope I didn't mean it in an offensive way. But yeah, that's my definition of it.
I knew how to play basketball.
Yeah.
Not varsity level basketball, but I
Hmm.
was decent at it.
No, you just wouldn't want to join the varsity, but when you play,
It's too
you're
much work.
good.
Ah,
Yeah, I remember in high school when I first saw him play basketball, I was amazed because he like, um how do you call it? You like stay in midair for a few seconds before you drop
oh,
down.
Jordan
I was-
Something like
kind of
that.
thing.
I was just tall.
Are you
I was
still
just
tall?
tall.
Are you
I had
still
a growth
tall?
spurt. I had a growth spurt from first year to second year high school, so
Yeah, I
Ah,
didn't
that's
see him
pretty
when
much
he
it.
was in first year because we got to know each other second year high school. But I saw a photo. He was still short in
huh,
first year. And yeah,
interesting.
he became a giant in second year.
Wow.
Other than that, I'm just the guy who sits in the back of the classroom.
Yeah.
Wow.
So same. We're
So
just
I
the
kind of
same
guessed.
type.
I kind of guessed it.
Yeah, you did.
I guessed it right. I guessed it right. This is really cool. This is cool. Basketball, huh? So, um, my follow-up question to Ham is that I want to also follow-up question to Mike. I think we're gonna go ladies first before we go to the gentlemen. Um, I
Yes, let's
wanna
do that.
No,
yeah.
I
So
always let you go first.
when it came to schooling and stuff like that, were you the competitive type? Where I mean, you mentioned you work in silence. So were you also the type that once you work in silence, your concentration is on the high level where you're competing with people, yet you're just regular. You mentioned regular. Or you that competitive as well when it came to sing? Because you mentioned valedictorian. Both of you folks are valedictorian, which is really interesting.
Wait, you said ladies first, right? But if I may, I want to answer that for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
She's not the competitive type. She's
Really?
never been the competitive
Yes.
type.
Huh.
That's it? Oh.
Yeah, I just wanted to say.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I think one good thing that we can say about us is that what we were doing, it wasn't driven out of a competitive environment or a pressured atmosphere. It was
Mm.
really just we just want to do our best. And in high school, you wouldn't think of us as the competitive type because we're way below the energy of those who are actually competitive. So we have classmates who you can really define to be competitive and in a good way. I mean, you can really see the enthusiasm in them, and they went to great lengths in their successes later on. Like they went to schools abroad afterwards.
Mm.
But I guess I never really endeavored to like get the top spot or what. It wasn't in my mind when I entered high school. Like really, when I entered high school, I had no goals. I just
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever been that kind of mindset. It's just do what you have to do,
yeah.
right? Be better than you were previously. Just like that. Because it wouldn't be healthy if you're always looking towards, right? You're looking towards what other people are doing or how they're doing it, or
Mm.
right.
And I think it was in our batch that it was first implemented in high school. They didn't um label valedictorian, salutatorian anymore.
Mm.
They just categorized the graduates into, I think, with highest honors, with honors, but no ranking.
Mm.
And that's also the same way in college, right? Like the Latin honors, but they would just recognize a valedictorian like they did with Carlo when he graduated in college, but
Ah,
no ranking beyond that. So I guess because in the end, what really matters is how you improve yourself regardless of how others did.
Wow,
And I
that's
remember when I
powerful.
went to college, I
Huh.
don't like I had no aspirations whatsoever. Like I thought it would be very hard to get a 1.0 grade in any subject because
yeah.
Mm.
that's the highest. So I didn't have that in mind that I should get this grade. But um you just have to do what the best that you can, and then later on you'll be able to calibrate na kaya ko pala to. So this is where
Yeah.
I can maximize
Mm.
my energy too, and in other areas that medyo nagsa-struggle ako, then I'll just focus on not failing, something like that. So it depends on your strengths and what you're willing to do to be able to get to a level that you'll be happy with.
Yeah, she never envisioned it, but she did it anyway. So, okay.
Ano ba?
It's really interesting. It's very powerful right off the bat. Um, I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask Mike. You mentioned basketball and the growth spurt. It's not about the growth spurt question though. Is that uh, when you when you played the game, when you study, I'm sure your fair share of the game, you had to study the game and stuff like that. Were you? It's actually the same question in a modified metaphor to basketball. Were you competitive in that regard when you were uh, competing, when you were playing sports?
When playing games, of course I'm
Yeah,
competitive.
he likes you hit people, diba? No, joke lang.
Really?
No, any game of that, but not just basketball,
Mm.
board games, video games, because it's
He's
fun.
always cocky when we play board games. That's why it's an extra sweet achievement when he loses.
They
Interesting.
love beating me in games.
Interesting. I'm fascinated with the fact that I'm scared to probably if by some miracle the pandemic is done and then I visit you guys, accidentally give you a PS4 or PS whatever latest PS that they have now. I'm scared to compete with you. That's kind of my weird visualization. You might beat me to Call of Duty or any of those games. I'm sure you're like that.
You know
Are
what?
you still?
You know what? I have never owned a console in my life. PS1, PS2,
Really?
whatever. I have never owned a
I
console.
think at least I had, what's the one, the big one? Yung
What?
bilog. I mean,
What?
I mean, yung ano pa, yung
PS1?
yeah, maybe that's
The first
PS1.
generation PlayStation?
Yeah. I think that's the
Is
one I
it
had. And then a dance Revo pad.
Uh,
A
I
foldable
gotta
pad.
I gotta ask Mike, would you beat me in Dance Revolution at least? I just wanted to know, or you haven't even
Oh,
seen Dance
never.
Revolution. Some of my
If
old
you
Michael
ask me if
Jackson
there's
tricks are gone.
anything, if you ask me if there's anything that I cannot do for the
Uh,
life of me,
yeah.
it's dancing. Okay?
Singing he will do, but not
Really?
dancing.
Really? Oh
I,
man.
I will
We need to
sing.
go
I will
karaoke.
sing very, very poorly, very, very badly, but for the life of me, I can't dance.
Man. It's good for cardio, just so you know. I think I lost a lot of pounds when I was so skinny. I think I did Michael Jackson. That was a
He runs
lifetime
though.
ago.
He runs.
That's good. That's good. At least you're still maintaining that fitness and interesting.
Not anymore.
Yeah, the last time he did was like a year ago.
Someone has a record of that. Wow. It's really
But
interesting.
sometimes he runs up and down our stairs, so maybe that's still running.
Yeah, well,
No,
yeah,
it,
that's
it was. I just remember. Back in college because I had this PE subject
Hmm.
running. So
Wait,
it's
that's a
an
subject?
early morning class. Yeah,
Ooh.
it's a PE subject.
okay.
Oh, you want to know my PE classes, Raj? I had stretching.
Wait, what?
I had, what else did I have?
Bowling.
Bowling, yeah.
Bowling,
10
yeah,
pin
I could
and
tell.
duck pin bowling.
I mean, I did bowling
Yeah.
as well, but stretching is like for us a period of what, a month, or how long is a semester with you guys?
No, a
No,
semester.
one semester.
4 months
Because
or
that's
5
how
months?
that's how they do it in the University of the Philippines. So
Oh,
you have one semester of like stretching, or in my case, running. So it was an early morning class. You have to run around the oval
wow.
with the sun barely there yet.
And you had the like a running marathon, right? You won second.
There was an intersection competition,
Huh.
something like that.
Mhm.
Huh.
So it's like a marathon around the campus.
What was
Wow.
the prize you got, and then you gave it to me?
A loaf of bread.
Wow.
Loaf of bread.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Oh man, I keep saying interesting a lot. I'm very self-conscious now thanks to the people who notified me.
That's your
Ig-
brand, Raj. That's
Ignore
fine.
them.
Yeah, embrace it.
Ignore them.
Yeah. I mean,
What do they know?
I'm because I am baffled. Okay, if you have a semester of stretching and then you have a sport that would require you to stretch, so the next semester you don't need to stretch. That means because you've been stretched for the entire semester, isn't that?
Up to you. Up to you.
I don't think that's how it works.
I mean, yeah, that's really interesting because bowling. I know bowling has the mechanics and the muscle memory pool. I think I played a handful of those games, and yeah, I mean, stretching is involved for probably a small limited minutes. But stretching for an entire semester, I mean, come on. I don't mean to insult the sport because I work out, but for an entire semester, being stretched is kind of like the worst. Oh, that sounded weird. Moving on.
There's also
moving
bird
on.
watching, Scrabble.
I heard of that. I've heard
Bridge.
of that.
There's bridge.
Yeah.
Well,
Bridge.
I
bird
didn't get
watching.
that subject, but there was bridge.
Bridges with the cards. Isn't that
Cheerleading.
cards.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Bridges cards. Yeah. Bird watching.
Go
Yeah, that's-
karting. There was
Really?
a
Oh,
subject.
yeah, yeah.
Go
Really?
karting.
Wall climbing too. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Tama, di ba?
Man.
Wall
Yeah,
climbing.
wall climbing, sport climbing.
Wow. This is
But
really.
the hard part of getting
Hmm.
PE classes is that it's hard to get the interesting ones.
Yeah.
That's why I got stretching.
we never got
Ah.
the cool one. So
And frankly, I don't care. I just want to like take off all the 4 PE courses I have to take for the entire program. So
I
I ended up with stretching.
brings me back to college
I
where
even had my last PE class was physical fitness.
Huh.
and that's where I got the lowest grade in, because you're
What?
supposed to target a goal for yourself. And
Huh.
I was super skinny. I targeted like a big increase in gain in weight, which I didn't achieve. So I got a low grade.
Well, that's your fault.
While my friend,
Huh.
she missed a lot of classes,
Huh.
but her goal was to reduce her weight, and then she got sick. So she got a big weight loss, and she got a higher grade than I did, despite missing lots of classes and not submitting requirements. So,
Speaking of
yeah.
throwback, I hope that friend of yours is not listening to the conversation. That'd be like, huh?
That's
I
fine.
remember. I
I always
remember
tell
her.
her that. That's my bitterness towards her.
Yeah, this is a really fascinating stuff. I switched interesting to fascinating. This is really good. We just went from powerful to me being blown away to just PE subject, because I remember when I was in college, and I used to chill out in one of our areas, and I often look at people who are stressed out, especially in enrollment, and they're just stressed out. And then I asked them, "Pal,
Mhm.
what's bothering you? I don't have PE for this. What? Yeah, what?" It's kind of a stressful thing just to get PE, and apparently it's a big thing. And some of people have loopholes. Some people went. There's a course called darts where a large chunk of people, not really a large chunk of people, uh, few people
I think
don't
we
even
have that
attend the
too.
Yeah.
class. They don't attend the class, but they end up passing the thing. And yeah, it was interesting, because for me, my experience of PE is fun. I enjoyed playing pool, and then the bowling. The only thing I hated in that time was I had to change pants in sing, because our location was far from school, from school. So in
You studied
Baguio.
in University of Baguio, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And if you guys have been
Okay.
to Baguio, I'm sure you guys know Center Mall, the plaza. There's a bowling arena on the top floor, and the classes, especially bowling, is like 8 a.m. in the morning. And earlier on, I was not really a morning thing. I really wanted to catch the evening classes. And then this was the only time that I forced myself to get out of the house and get a pair of pants, because we had to switch to shorts, or we had to switch to jogging pants for the bowling thing. We haven't even flipped a single ball, and we already need to change pants. And I remember there were certain classes that I had to take bowling, and in the same day, I did not know. Regretfully, I had like applied at that time. Yeah, that was when I was already introduced to the applied subjects. And with the applied subjects, I had to physically carry my classical guitar, where changing my shorts in the CR with classical guitar, making sure. And then it was really a weird. It was weird. I'm glad I was done with that. But yeah, that was the most dreadful thing. Although I like
Uh,
the game. It's just I love the game. It's just that I hated the changing the pants portion of it. So yeah.
yeah, I remember the same inconvenience in high school, because we had swimming, right,
Mm,
in our PE classes.
yeah.
And it's a hassle if you still have a class after
Yeah.
PE. I think it's 1 quarter per year. It's
Huh,
swimming.
huh.
I mean, in one of the every quarter we switch PE, whatever it is, PE fields,
Sport.
PE sport, or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah.
there'll always be swimming per year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, and
guess.
then it's awful if you have a class after, because yeah, you still have to change. And
Yeah, you have to take a shower and all that
To
stuff. I'm sure
shower, you have to
yeah.
change.
speaking, we're doing some major throwbacks on PE experience, and we noticed there's an elephant in the room. We haven't asked Mike any story about PE experience that is dreadful, that still, you don't want to experience anymore. How about you,
PE
Mike?
experience. No, PE was fun.
PE classes. Oh, you had basketball.
I
Ah,
had one
That's where you
semester.
had the lowest grade in.
what?
I had,
Basketball.
had one
What?
semester of basketball. I had
Uh,
one semester of running.
uh.
I had one semester of bowling,
And
10-pin
another
bowling,
bowling.
and another
Wait.
semester of duck pin bowling. Have you
Wait.
ever played duck pin bowling, Raj?
Wait. You said boating? Did I hear boating?
Bowling.
Bowling. Ah, okay. So yeah,
So
okay.
there's 10-pin bowling. That's
Oh,
the real bowling, and then
yeah.
there's duck pin bowling
Which is
with a
where
small tiny ball.
I think I have an idea what that is. Is yeah, that's like the
I I think that sport is extinct.
basically
So
It is?
they
I think so.
I think that is when they injected a billiard ball and then it blows up and then it increased to a certain size and that is the one that you throw at the pins. Am I right? Is that the one?
I don't know if you were kidding, Raj, but
We don't know the history. But yeah,
But
smaller
the-
ball,
yeah,
smaller pins.
it's a ball that can fit in your hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's more difficult nga ba? Is it supposed to be more challenging
Because it doesn't
than
have the
10-pin
pins, I'm
bowling?
sure. It doesn't have the pinholes where for the regular stuff.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
You don't need the pinholes because you can palm the entire ball.
Uh-huh.
Interesting because I remember.
It's a different it's a different skill than a 10-pin bowling.
Interesting.
Especially in UP
Uh,
where the duck pin bowling alley was pretty old. So
Hmm.
the planks on the alley was uneven. So you have to
Oh.
figure out where to roll the ball properly.
oh. But isn't this the manual stuff or this is already with the technology with the pins changing itself?
No.
automatically?
Oh
no,
yeah,
no.
that's the interesting part. So the 10-pin, the duck pin bowling alley in the university, there
Huh.
are people, staff,
Behind the
behind
pins.
the pins.
So they have to set up the pins manually.
Wow. That must be the toughest job. Is
And
like
you interviewed one of them, right?
I'm
Yeah, so you have to before you throw the ball, before you roll the ball, you have to make sure that they're in the clear.
uh,
Otherwise, you'll hit them with the ball or the pins, and they'll get angry at you. So you don't want to do that.
fascinating. We went up from motivation to sports, but we still haven't got a powerful speech from Mr. Mike himself, which we'll get into.
I don't know
I'm
what you're
waiting.
expecting from me, Raj, but
I'm sure you know because I mentioned the whole perfect concept that you mentioned that really triggered my head again. Is that I'm waiting for that sweet spot, you know. And I know you're an improvised guy, so I don't want to stress you out. So no stress. But I'm looking for that perfect, you know, sweet spot kind of motivation that can, you know, enlighten me or something. I don't know, but I'm expecting that.
I can tell you a story. I can tell you a story from college if you want.
What story is that?
No,
Yeah.
since we're talking about college and achievements and whatever, I just remember this one seminar we attended in college. I think it's a career seminar thing or something like that. Because we were about to graduate then, and then there was a speaker. I think he was an alumnus of the university or the College of Engineering or something, and I just remember something that he said really, really well. It stuck with me because he said something like to a crowd of students who are about to graduate. He was saying na grades aren't important. Okay lang na meron kang 5. Kasi in the University of the Philippines, 1.0 or 1 is the highest mark you can get. And then failures are 5 or 5, right? So, to that effect na okay lang magkaroon ng 5 when you get out of the university. Just tell your interviewers, your prospective employers na I was just busy then doing this kaya I wasn't able to pay too much attention to this class, whatever. And I just remember thinking back then at that moment, this guy's an idiot.
So you hated the speaker. Wait, is this the one I forced you to attend?
I can't
The seminar I
remember.
forced you to attend
I
in?
just remember after he said that statement that grades aren't important and okay lang na bumagsak ka as long as you have an excuse for it. That guy's stupid. That's the
What?
stupidest thing ever.
It's funny.
Yeah, so
I gotta admit, with your storytelling, you got me in the hook, and then suddenly, you just drove me off of the cliff. It was kind of interesting. I was like, I was with you, and then
You thought he
suddenly,
was gonna recall something inspirational,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I was like, there's like, kind of thing that the heavens opened or something like that, and then, what?
it just stuck with me. It just stuck with me really because we've said earlier that after graduating from the university, we taught in the university for years.
Huh.
So just recalling that moment that someone is telling these young impressionable kids
Huh.
that grades doesn't matter,
Huh.
that basically hard work in studying doesn't matter.
Huh.
That's just a bunch of BS.
Huh.
That's my powerful speech, Raj.
Yeah, you drove me off the cliff. I'm basically near the riverside already. I mean, yeah. When you turned and suddenly you said the speaker was stupid. I was like, I was already broken past the bridge and I'm already in midair flying all over the place. So yeah, it's really wow. Interesting. This is you guys are really entertaining.
I don't know if you have a different opinion, Raj, about that, but
I think
that's just me.
there's always a debate, right? Like, because there's this school of thought that grades are the only thing that matters, and that's true.
Grades are not everything.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's also one way of looking at it, because there's this other type of thought that yung mga suma-suma, magna-magna, parang they sort of, ano ba yung term? Not belittle pero parang they don't give value to those credentials, na parang what they mean is magaling ka sa school pero pagdating mo sa real world, if you don't have this other set of qualities, your summa magna cum laude credentials won't matter.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, of course, grades is not everything. It's not enough to get you by,
Mhm.
right, in the real world. But
Oh.
I guess ang point ko lang is, if you're a student, you're studying for something, and you want a tangible measure of how hard you worked and how much you've learned, because you worked hard for that, right?
Mhm.
That's your grades, right? So as a former teacher, I mean that's basically disrespecting the institution when you say that grades doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right?
And what matters din naman aside from the grades is the hard work and dedication that came with it, right?
Time
Yeah,
and energy. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Since you connected that to education, which I was gonna get into, I'm gonna ask the interesting stuff later on. I wanna actually, I wanna share my opinion on that. I'm not the brightest in high school because I'm sure you guys know my story. I failed, and the system was getting tougher for me to adapt to. So it was not really the thing for me. And then I did a correspondence course, and I did well, but it's just that I never really got to enjoy those tiny moments like the celebrating of the graduation, those kind of grand stuff, which
Mhm.
I think I've mentioned with a couple of conversations before, where the moment that moment for me, because even this when I graduated, surprisingly, I only knew I graduated the day that it was announced that I was graduating. So technically I was not even aware that my name was being flagged up somewhere in UB's Facebook page, and then that was very shocking. But for me, my main point was um, I never really had. I don't think for me personally, this is coming from me, is that I never personally had the ability to comprehend and follow up with what everybody's doing. And I think that was one thing that uh, built my personality. And every time someone asks me, what kind of person are you in life, is that I always give them this picture of who I am, is that I am the guy that walks in a very snowy city, looking into houses and watching everybody, and supporting from the snow, and then just moving on and just being isolated. That's why I also had my isolation period, which my lost years, which of course, yeah, and yeah, basically my way of understanding education is I support the craft. The craft of the hard work and the teaching. It's just that um uh I think it needs more evolution. It needs more inspiration, or something is lacking to me thereof, that makes certain students don't really want a particular subject. But that's just my opinion. I know you guys are education educators, and you guys have powerful thoughts on the matter, but that's just my way of looking at it. So yeah.
No, no, Raj, you're actually right.
Yeah.
I think we both completely agree with you that
Yes.
the manner of teaching, the default manner of teaching, is definitely not for everyone, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the realizations I had, so I was teaching right after, I was teaching after coming out of school, so no
Hmm.
industry experience whatsoever.
Hmm.
And one realization I had was I was teaching students about a particular topic, about certain equipment that I myself have not seen,
Hmm.
or about applications that I haven't, you know seen how it's done in the industry. So what I realized is that the best teachers really would be those who have practiced what
Hmm.
they were teaching. And that's why I admire those. For me, the better model that would work is someone who was already practicing the craft in the industry and then went back to the university to teach, because then he or she would be able to share actual experiences, actual pain points, what really matters
Hmm.
in the field once the students go out. Yeah, so I understand your point about, the inspiration, motivation, because that really would come with a certain level of experience from the educators for me.
Yeah, and uh, even just the pace of learning, everybody has a different pace, right? Learns at a different
Yeah.
pace. So, uh, the educators need to be more conscious about that. It's just that uh, when you say that your grades doesn't matter,
Yeah, that
as
that kind of,
opposed
yeah.
to
That's like
as
throwing the
opposed
cat out
to
the window.
it's okay if you fail,
Yeah.
right? As opposed
Yeah.
to it's okay if you fail.
Hmm.
What did you do afterwards, right? So
Yeah.
Hmm.
what did you do for you to be able to do better the second time around?
Yeah.
That's a completely different thing.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's just where I'm coming from.
Interesting. This is really fascinating. Folks, we're just gonna have a short break, and after the break, I'm gonna ask a lot of interesting questions.
Mainit na diskusyunan,
Masarap na kwentuhan,
malinamnam na usapan,
at nakakagising na balitaktakan.
parang kape lang. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Rhea Angeline
Join us in our conversations at Coffee na Lang Dear Podcast.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Rajiv Show. And our first half of the conversation, it was, what is the word that I'm looking for? Interesting, basically. Yeah, it's the word that I usually say.
No,
We,
you said madness earlier, Raj.
yeah,
You said
madness.
madness.
I wanted to put a band-aid on it, so I just put my signature line, just make sure the madness doesn't spew over. But yeah, I mean, lovely guest that I have today, Mike and Ham from Please Pause. Phenomenal podcast. Must check them out, especially our collaboration, which I really love the most. So coming back to education, the question that I have in mind is, why engineering? I mean, did you guys watch a Bollywood movie aside from American stuff? Uh, that's the curious question that's been ringing in my head. Is like, you mentioned chemical engineering and electronic engineering. So basically, it sounds like you guys could make bombs of, saying laughing gas or something. It's
Uh, please cut that from the tape, Raj.
yeah,
We don't want to be arrested or anything.
yeah, yeah. No worries.
We don't want to be red tagged or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. No worries. I'll remove that.
No,
But
but
yeah.
no,
We're
just
just
kidding.
kidding.
We're just kidding. Raj.
Keep that. That's part
Yeah.
of the madness.
Uh,
Yeah.
I I think it started in high school, right? Because
Hmm.
studying in the Philippine Science High School system,
Huh.
you are actually required to take a science and technology course in
In college,
college.
yeah, it's part
That's
of the
Yeah,
contract because
is that STEM?
the high school education is free.
Is that the
yeah.
STEM?
It was when we were in high school. That was before the STEM thing, right? But
Yeah.
Oh, I
but
mean,
it's basically that.
yeah.
It's
Yes.
basically that. It's a school inclined towards science and technology.
Huh.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
so if you wanted to study there, you should be aware that you're pretty much
Expected.
expected to be doing science
Uh,
stuff all the way.
Engineering, yeah.
it's pretty
So you're not
interesting.
allowed to take accounting courses or right?
Yeah,
Oh,
Supposedly
okay.
yeah.
management courses. If you do, you have to pay back your high school
Yeah,
education.
because the studying there is free.
Hmm.
It's subsidized by the Department of Science and Technology. So I guess that's their way of encouraging people to study science and tech.
Interesting. And electronic engineering from basketball, I don't really see the connect. It's very, very. There's one more thing that I'm trying to connect here, is that the basketball and the electronic engineering. It's one of the weirdest combinations I've ever seen in my life.
Raj, I'm in no way an expert on basketball.
I mean,
He's not
I
a
mean,
varsity player.
I mean, the fact that you mentioned in the first half is that you grew, and then, probably in class you're like the tallest guy that everybody, even the teacher, looks up to him. That's how I visualize you. With the
Well,
crowds,
actually, in school, there is a basketball team, right?
Hmm.
And then there are, what do you call that? Basketball cops or whatever.
What?
Parang
I don't know.
ganon.
I just like playing during free time, Raj. I'm not in no way an expert at it. I like watching basketball.
uh,
So you can say it's his hobby or interest.
It's just a game.
Yeah.
It's just fun to play.
it's funny that
Do you watch basketball, Raj?
for both my cousins, they introduced me to the game. I play a couple of free throws here and there, but nah, I'm not really that kind of person. Um,
But do you watch the sport
I do.
or
I
it's not
do.
your thing?
I do, but
I don't.
Yeah,
I do, but I still
because
for me, I don't really follow the hype. Uh, where the earlier times when I think around 2011 or 13 or something, where Cavs versus the
Warriors,
Warriors. Yeah, that thing was trending.
Cavs, Warriors. I think that's
I,
2015 or something.
yeah,
20,
I
yeah, I think
remember
2015.
many people were going nuts over that game, and I'm just going, oh, okay, who's winning? Good, good, okay. I don't even
I'm
know.
with
It's
you,
like,
Raj. I'm with you.
yeah,
Since this is an inspiration podcast, Raj,
yeah.
I just remember this incident. I don't know if anyone really remembers this, but I like the Warriors. I love Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, but
Yeah.
my favorite moment of their run was, I think, 2019 during
2019.
the
Yeah, okay.
finals when they lost to the Toronto Raptors. But since
Yeah.
this is an inspiration, and since inspiration is your thing, I just
Yeah.
remembered I think towards the end of the third quarter of their final game,
Huh.
Clay Thompson got injured going for a layup or a dunk. So he fell awkwardly on the floor
Yeah.
and he injured his knee.
I
And
think I
then
know this story.
it was too bad that he had to go to the back. He was walking gingerly, walking to the back to get it looked at.
Huh.
And then when he was in the tunnel,
Huh.
I think some of their staff told him that he was fouled, by the way, on the play.
Huh.
And then some of the Warrior staff told him that if you don't shoot your free throws, because he was fouled while shooting,
Yeah.
you won't be able to go back into the game.
Huh.
Okay. So what he did was he walked back to the court, shot his 2 free throws and made them, and then went out of the game for good. And then it turns out that the injury wasn't just a knee injury, it was a torn ACL. So he was out for an entire year after that.
Huh.
You shouldn't even be walking with that injury
Yeah.
after that. But that's just a moment that I remember so well because he walked back into the court, shot his free throws, and that was that.
Yeah, I think I remember that story. But I don't even remember if I was watching that because I remember many a times I see Clay Thompson, he was always injured. I also remember the story with the Cavaliers. I think that was also with Cavaliers. He was also injured. And then he came back.
I'm not sure if that was Klay Thompson or Kyrie Irving. Anyway, why are we talking
Yeah.
about basketball?
Yeah. But anyway,
With
that
you.
the motivation
Just
there
spacing
is
out this entire segment because I can't relate.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's very powerful scene itself. I mean, with the what we were talking about basketball, and then suddenly we were drifting from education to basketball. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, coming back to engineering. What was I gonna say? Yeah. All is well. I don't know what to say. But really, it's really fascinating that you guys really went for engineering. I mean, I heard it's one of the most torturous fields to ever join in, because in India that's also the norm. It's either the popular kids are the ones that get into engineering and stuff, like either architecture, engineering, and usually the other cool kids are the ones who are handling their finance, which is commerce and economics. So, it's kind of interesting. So the cool kids make the big bucks, and then the accountants keep the money. But yeah, I just realized that I just realized that was the pattern of
that's
thing.
one way to put it.
Yes.
Yeah. I just realized it.
The engineers work for the managers.
Yeah, and then build me my house. Okay, how much? I'm gonna take 50% of that because I'm the accountant, and I look good with the money without you. But yeah, so I just realized that it just blew my mind because the separation is maths and science. When I was in high school, I never really studied the full Philippine style of it. The only reason why I knew STEM was because I think my cousin got into STEM. I think brilliant kid in the house, and pretty cool. I mean, he's pretty good in science stuff, and then he switched from that to law, which is pretty interesting. And but I gotta admit, the kid is an amazing kid. He's just rarely at home. But if he's tuning into this episode and he's reached this point, good for him. But yeah, that's how I knew STEM. And then with the K-12 in India, we have the system already. It's been standardized for a very, very long time. And for me, I had to do a correspondence course to compensate for the 2 years. And I did a 10th and then 12. We call it standards there. Here, I think first year high school is 6 standard for us, or 6th year or something like that. Am I right?
Or
I think
seven,
it's seven.
grade 7.
Grade, yeah.
Seven,
So the
eight.
numbers, the
Yeah.
numbers,
That's the
they keep
junior high school, 7th and
uh,
8th grade.
from me because when I migrated, I think I was in grade 5. So I had to repeat it because
Mm.
I had some few technicalities when I went to India. One is my first name and my last name was Indian, so they assumed that I was Indian. So I had to be tortured while my
Oh.
sister just went into high school with a breeze, especially with our subjects. She really got away with it. I really was surprised because for me,
When you went to India, Raj,
hmm, hmm,
when you went to India, did you already know the language? Have you been speaking what is it, Hindi? Or did you
in
have to
Bangalore,
learn that too?
the central dialect for Bangalore is Kannada with a K. K and I think a double
Oh,
N,
okay.
Kannada.
Mm.
And when you go down south, it's Tamil and Tamil Nadu, Chennai, the southern areas. And when you go to Hindi, when you go to New Delhi, Mumbai, and all
Mhm.
Hyderabad, mostly they speak Hindi there, so it differs. And then when you go to east, there's another dialect, Malayalam, Bengali, and then east west. They all have different dialects. But where I stayed was Canada was the main staple of the entire area. But for my dad, who grew up in Bangalore, his family line is from the Tamil Nadu area. They're from Chennai. Basically, they grew up in Chennai and then they migrated to Bangalore. So they're not really well versed in Kannada, in the sense that so they speak Tamil at home basically. But in trading, mostly all of the people I've encountered in the neighborhood, some of them speak Kannada because they're genuinely from the area, and mostly all the ones from because we live behind a slum. This is actually unheard of from the thing. I've never mentioned this. Is that where we stayed, especially in our residence, we have a slum behind us. If you've guys seen the slum
Mhm.
videos of the Indian movies that you've seen, you mentioned TVs and
Mhm.
movies.
Mm-hmm.
Slums like that also occupy the cities, and it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's like a uh, it's like a labyrinth of houses after houses. They're all conjoined. So imagine that the only problem is of course water. Water is really one of the major. So if you're living hypothetically, if you're living in a slum and your area is not close to any single water source or water tap, you're most likely to suffer more than the person who's close to the water tap because they're the ones who hog it in the morning, if you know what I mean. So that's the life there.
Mm-hmm.
Water is one of the main problems, and occasional drunken behaviors alongside with stray dogs. It's just a di- a different dynamic, and especially when you go into the inner cities, it's very different. The story that compensates the whole thing is the white tiger because you see the village side, you see the separation. It's like an extension of the white tiger episode. But yeah, that was the life. That was the life. And that was the life that we had. I got to witness when they celebrate a Hindu festival, they really block out an entire road that would cause traffic, and in the sense that it will block out an entire street. But there are some good festivals that they had. When I was doing my animation, there was this amazing festival where they block out this area from a golf course. It's located near a golf course area. They basically, it's a government college, art college, so they block off the entire road, and all you could see is paintings and Indian paintings, saris, and all these textiles. It's just a beautiful thing. I don't know if they still have it. I think they still have
Mm-hmm.
it by the month. It's perfectly timed. It's somewhere around Jan or Feb, but it's really amazing. I forgot the name of that festival, but it's sing. It was just hard to get to college there because the road that they use is the road that I take in order to get to college, only to find out
Oh.
that we don't have class. One of most hectic moments of my life. So yeah, uh, I would love to share a short story about those moments when I used to go to college. Is that it was a bit of a pain, especially saying. I mean, the rise of Facebook made it easy for me to communicate with my with with my teacher. But the problem though is my teacher makes it so
Wait, you mean
uncomfortable.
going to college here in the Philippines,
In
right?
India,
Or
yeah,
in
Yes.
India? Oh, okay.
yeah. This is
Are you
really
lost?
this is really a fascinating story that Singh I've wanted to share. I don't know if I've shared this before. Is that I used to cycle from home to the college, and it's in the inner city. I mean, yeah, in the inner city, so I have to go through hills and valleys. Basically, if I
Wow.
exaggerate my words, I have to go through China, Babylon, Egypt, say hi to Barack Obama, and then reach my college. So the funny thing is that's how and there are many times that I'm competing with cars, and I only had two injuries. I mean, my cycle had two injuries, and luckily I never got hurt. Coming to think of it, I got hurt on the first one, but yeah. Um, there were really there's some few crazy stories that I haven't shared with many of the people. Is that I hated wearing black uh, during my time there because I'm not the fashionista kind of person. Whatever is in the closet, I just wear that and go. And this is a weird conspiracy theory that I've never shared with anyone. Is that anytime I wear black and I go to college, I end up getting wet. When I say I end up getting wet, I get drenched, and I'm in a cycle, and sometimes and it rains on those specific days. But if I
Oh.
wear rainbow colors or something, I look like a clown in the middle of the street. It's like very sunshine and it's very nice hot weather. It's very weird. Uh, I
So you
go
stopped
home
wearing
drenched.
black at some point.
At some for me, I had no choice because that was the only thing that was easily accessible at the moment, because most of
Uh-huh.
the clown clothes were in the laundry at
Clown
that
clothes.
yeah, on that
Uh-huh.
day. So it was really weird. And then there were also moments where I used to go to college, and I used to send my teacher a message, do we have class today? He says, don't message me here, come to college. And then when I end up going to college, uh, you'd probably know the story there. I'm already in college, sweating from head to toe because I traveled from Babylon, China, met Barack Obama, and then saying, uh, I'm sweating, and then the security guard is there, and then the teacher's bike is not saying. I asked them, "Do we have class today?" No, you don't have class today. Imagine my frustration.
Maybe next time you should message a friend instead,
the funny
instead of
part
your
is the funny
teacher.
part is we all message each other and ask the same question, and then we ask
No one knows.
yeah, no one
Oh.
knows. And then the funny part is once we asked him, he says, do not ask me, come to college. And then I end up saying sweating, legs are shaking, especially if I haven't cycled for at least two
Yeah.
days. I'll be walking like I'm paralyzed heading to sing. And it was torturous and it was hell, but through and through I had some few amazing interesting moments where I took my cycle and cross paths to a train station. Luckily there were no trains at the moment, so we were there and then we were passing by a train station, and it was fun. It was fun, and it was really it was hell. It was hell, but the price that I paid was the journey of experiencing my city in Bangalore. That's why it makes it much easier for me to commute from UB to La Trinidad. Many people say, it's very polluted and all that stuff. I mean, I'm just traveling from one mountain downwards, which makes it easier. in Bangalore, I was competing with buses and trains and not just
Right.
buses, auto rickshaws, busing, and the experience was much more scarier. There were times that I often wonder if I was even gonna go home with one wheel and my shoulder, or even having my shoulder with me. So yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience thing altogether. But yeah, that's a little bit of story about me and the animation periods of my life. I hope my teacher doesn't listen to this episode. Probably get a message, hey, I heard you. Tell me. But yeah,
We didn't say anything
no, but
unparticular about him or her.
yeah, and but it was
We just said all
torturous.
facts.
Yeah, it was torturous. It was just a perspective, probably in he just wanted to sing. Yeah. But anyway, moving on. Education. We went from education to India to education. What got you? What guys? What made you convince you to get into the field of education? You mentioned experience was not the thing, but and you mentioned you guys have in completion. You guys have uh, 7 years, 7 years or more than 7 years
Yeah,
in the
Mike
pocket.
did 7 years. I
Eh,
did just almost 5.
So 12 years
Yep.
in
So,
combinations. Yeah.
so I think for me, my bigger motivation really was to take the postgraduate studies. Um, I don't know. I can't remember exactly what my thought process then, but I don't know if I was just delaying, getting out into the world.
But
But
but you were good at it,
in what? In
teaching.
masters? I think we were both decent teachers. Like, students don't hate us. And that's because we also work hard for it. Like,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah,
really hard work.
yeah. If I learned something from teaching is
Hmm.
that being a teacher is easy. Anyone can be a teacher, really.
Yeah.
Being a good teacher is hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work, really.
And
Yeah.
it was also an opportunity to, like, really master the um what do you call this, the field of expertise more, because for you to be able to teach it effectively, you should have understood it better. Right? I mean, better than you did when you were a student.
Mm.
So it was hard work in the sense that you had to read a lot of materials. I don't read just the textbook that we have, because they can just read whatever it says there on their own. So I
Yeah.
have to look for other materials that would explain the concept better, and
Mm.
that takes hours, and making the material out of it as well.
Mm.
But what I really realized the gap is it would have been better if I had prior experience first. Although it depends on what kind of things you teach in the university. Because if you were teaching about research and you're doing masters or PhD, then
Mm.
you're already in the perfect spot. Yeah, but if you're teaching, basic principle, no, sorry, I mean specialized principles of the field, then I would have preferred if I had prior experience before I taught that subject.
Mm.
But going back to your question, yeah, that was my motivation to masters, and I have the option to do that part-time while teaching. So there's a program in the university for that. You get what's it called? I mean, you don't get the full teaching load really, because they take into account that you have load also for your masters.
It's like you had a good deal because you're learning and teaching at the same time, and then
Yes, yes.
interesting. It's interesting. How about you, Mike?
Well, I knew I could do it, so I did. That's why
But
I entered.
you had more
I
in the
entered
bag.
teaching.
Yeah, you had more in the bag, so it must have been
No,
a lot of thing. because you mentioned 7 years. That's a lot. I mean,
No, it's just that, yeah. Well, be- bef- before graduating, before deciding on entering teaching, I just remember thinking that I was looking back at the courses that I took
Hmm.
in college, and I just recall I kind of understood that well. I think
yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
think
wouldn't be valedictorian if you didn't, right?
I think I can
It's like a
I
knife.
think I
I
can
heard.
explain
I
that
felt
to
like a knife
someone.
just went straight into the chest of Mike. Like,
Sheesh.
one knife I heard.
So that was my way of thinking then. Na I think I could do it. So yeah, since I'm going to take my masters, going to pursue my masters anyway, so why not do it? And then in the process, that's where the realization came that anyone can teach. Really.
Uh, I mean,
Anyone at all can be a bad teacher.
uh,
It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to be a bad teacher. But if you if you care, if you
uh,
care about your students, if you care about them understanding what you're trying to tell them,
yeah.
that takes a different level of work.
Maybe one thing I could also share is that
Hmm.
I never envisioned myself to be teaching when
Hmm.
I was maybe in high school or in my early years of college, because like I said, if we were your high school classmates, would be the quiet ones.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was about to
that
go
wouldn't
there.
scream teaching
Yeah.
material. I mean, that
Yeah.
wouldn't scream
Yeah.
good teacher
It's kind
right
of
away, right? But
contradicts. Yeah, it kind of contradicts the
yeah, but
character.
I think and that's one weakness that I already recognize in me, that I'm not good in speaking in front of an audience, etc. But one one particular memorable learning experience I had in college, I mean literally learning experience, is this course I had on communication. So
Hmm.
this was taught by a previous I think newscaster. I forgot his name already. He wasn't doing that when he was teaching that course, but
Hmm.
I knew I was not good at it. So this was one of the things I said, that you have to calibrate yourself where you're good at, and then balance your expectation and strive to reach the highest that you can, but that's not the uno that you can probably get easily in other subjects. So
Hmm.
that's where I learned how to do speaking in general, and that's where I got my way of doing it, that I would really prepare, like I would write the entire thing I'm gonna
Hmm.
say and
Hmm.
read it over and over, so that when I speak in front of an audience, my thought process would be smoother.
But you can't do that in class, right?
But I still write it. I
Yeah.
still write what I'm gonna say.
Really?
Normally the
Really?
first part, yeah, because that would like give you the momentum. I would
Ah,
always write the first part,
okay.
even to the level of good morning class. It's written really in my notes, but I don't have the paper with me anymore when I speak. But what I do is, what I have in mind,
Huh.
how I'm gonna deliver it, I write it down and I read it before I go to class, so that
Interesting.
your thought process is there. Of course, it's not gonna be word for word or whatever, but and that's what I do in everything. Like you do that too before you present something at work. You write it down, right? I mean,
Uh, but when teaching a class, not to that extent, because
yeah,
it's too
yeah.
much work.
I know it is. That's why when I
Yeah.
write it down and I teach the same class next semester, I don't have to write it anymore. It's already there. I just read
Makes
it
sense.
again.
I get what you're
Recycle.
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that practice. That's how I got I think a 1.5 in that class. And for me
Huh.
that was, oh my gosh, it's very very high, because I have classmates who are really really good. So it was an achievement for me already. I mean, it's not about
That's
the
cool.
grade, but to be able to do decently in that class. And then so that still doesn't bring me to teaching, but I think towards the last years of college, I joined an organization and it was in the academics committee.
Hmm.
Surprise, surprise.
Hmm.
Academics committee. And one of the activities was to give tutorials to
Huh.
the younger students. And that's where I realized that I could teach. And um, I think I had one suki, who really.
Raj doesn't know suki.
Sorry. You
Yeah,
don't know
wrong
suki.
number, wrong area.
Do you know
Yeah.
suki, Raj?
Yun ba yung sausawan sa
It's like a repeat
lumpia?
customer. It's like a repeat customer
Ah,
or something like that.
oh,
Yeah, so as
interesting.
long as you have like one student that you were able to do good with, like you were able to help, and that's where I realized that kaya ko naman pala atang magturo and someone could understand me. So that actually, built up my confidence to go to teaching, because again, I would not have imagined doing that many years before.
For me, I have a sort of a different mindset when I was trying to be better at teaching.
Huh.
I always try to remember my professors who I've hated.
Huh.
So you always have that professor, right, where
True.
you really hated going to his class.
Yeah.
You really dreaded that twice a week class of his, right? So
Yeah.
I try to recall those professors that I got previously, and I just kept telling myself, don't do that. just don't be that. I think you'll be at least decent at it. Just don't do whatever he's doing. So
That is your benchmark.
yeah, I just said, if I'm better than my, just bleep this, my teacher
Oh my god.
back in second year college,
Yeah.
I think I'll be a decent teacher.
That was very specific.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot about you. We were classmates in that course.
Ah. And I'm sure the remarks are the same.
rather,
remarks are the same.
rather than make the mistakes yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than
Ganun.
make the mistakes yourself, it's better to learn from others.
Yeah. I had a follow-up question, but you answered the question before I even asked it. It's really interesting. Because I'm baffled by the year span. 5 years. 5 years is good, but the 7 years of teaching with Mike, and with only one lesson, that life lesson that came out of it, is really really interesting. I love the details of how Ham.
Sorry, Raj. What was the life lesson again? what was the
Teaching-
life lesson again?
Teaching is easy. That's the one that I know.
All right.
Anyone can do it. I can't really modulate my voice to yours, but yes, really interesting. And out of 7 years, 6 words, I think the teaching is easy. Yeah, 6 words, I think. 3 words and then another 3 words. Really fascinating. And to wrap this conversation, because we've spoken a lot about education, I mean, I'm sure a lot of my listeners right now would love to connect with you via social media and find your podcast and find White Tiger. How would they find you on social media?
Please pause podcast Please pause with Mike and Ham. It's not about chemical engineering. It's not about electronics engineering. We talk about movies and TV shows. So you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms.
And then we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Please Pause PH.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, Raj, I did say that teaching was easy. Anyone can do it. Don't forget the next part. That's the most important thing. The next part is being a good teacher is hard work. That's
But
the
that was
important
very
part,
significant.
Raj.
Yeah, it's very significant for me. Yeah, it's very, very, very powerful and significant for me. Is the one that made me go, interesting. It was because it was so, significant. It was like highlighted if it were to be transcribed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forget the first part. Just remember the latter statement, okay?
Yeah, I will.
If I get
will.
misquoted, people will hate me. Teachers will hate me.
Don't worry. I'll put that in the after quotes kasi eh. I'm planning to put that in the after quotes. uh, so yeah, what an amazing conversation with the most lovely couple. And folks, I'm sure you were entertained. I hope you learned a lot from this wonderful couple, and hopefully, fingers crossed from my end is that I get to get featured again after the release of this episode. I get to be featured twice or thrice in their episode because I really love them and I love their vibe. And the next episode that you're gonna hear me is me chewing popcorn while they're having a conversation while I'm in the conversation. So,
We'd
so
love to have you back, Raj.
awesome. I love to be back. It's really it's just entertaining. I feel like I'm when
Yeah.
you guys riff off. I know we're supposed to say goodbye, but I riffed off to sing. When we were having the
Yeah,
recording in the White
it's just
Tiger,
that.
I was like that Michael Jackson meme that you guys remembered. I felt like I was there. I was the character Michael Jackson watching popcorn while you guys are talking.
Yeah, it's just that we don't have tight as a schedule as you have, Raj. We haven't plotted our episodes beyond next week, so so we'll see. But
Yeah.
we'd love to have you back. It was fun making you laugh.
Uh, and to wrap up this conversation, I want to thank my guests for being a part of the Rajiv show. It's been a long time since I've wanted to have you guys in the conversation. How many IG DMs that I've sent you guys? It felt like decades. So I want to thank Mike and Ham for being part of this conversation. Thank you so much. And I really love you guys. There's so much love in this conversation.
Thanks, Raj. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Raj, for having us.
So nice to be here in your show, and thanks for the fun chat.
And cheers, folks, for those who are tuning in. I will see you in the next episode.